Okay, in this next section, we're still talking about solving equations. If you will notice in all of the problem, the equations that we've solved, there was nothing that could be combined on both sides of the equation. We just got the x's on one side, we got the numbers on the other. What I'm going to do now is we're going to start adding some stuff on both sides of the equal sign. In other words, there's going to be more variable terms and more constant terms in the problem other than just one variable term on both sides, one constant term on both sides. So what do we do when that equation starts to get a little bit longer? So I'm going to show you some examples. Let me go over here to my set of examples that I've got planned for you. So let's look at this problem right here. 3x plus 4 minus 7x equals 6 minus 2x minus 11. Okay, now let me say this before I start the process. Whenever you're solving an equation, if you can do anything to simplify the left side or simplify the right side, always do that first. Now, why didn't I mention that in the other problems? Because in the other problems, there was nothing you could do on either side to simplify it. So whenever you're solving an equation, we want to simplify the left side of the equation as much as possible and simplify the right side as much as possible. That typically then will end up taking us down to our two-step problem that we can finish from there. So let me show you what I mean by this. Look on this, here's my equal sign right here. If you'll notice on this left side, you have two variable terms that's already on the same side. So I want to go ahead and combine those now. So if you win 3x, but you lose 7, after you win 3, you are down 4x. Now, this is a number term, so I'm just going to bring it down. I always deal with my variable terms, put them first, and my number terms behind my variable terms. Okay, so let's look at the right side of the equal now. This is a number term, and that's a number term. There's only one variable term, so I'm going to bring it down. Notice I brought the negative with it. Now, add these two numbers together since they're on the right side of the equal sign. So if you win 6 and you lose 11, you are down 5. Now, look at this problem. Here's our two-step problem. Get your x's on one side, get your numbers on the other. So to get rid of the adding 4, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. When I do, the left side would be negative 4x, the right side would be negative 2x. If you lose 5 and then you lose 4, you have lost 9. Now, that got the numbers on the right side, but it didn't get the x's on the left side. So I have to get rid of this entire minus 2x term. How do you get rid of the entire minus 2x term? By plus 2xing on both sides. When I do, the 2x's adds out to 0. Negative 4x plus 2x is negative 2x equals, and then negative 9. Now you're right back to that negative 2 times x equals negative 9. To get rid of this, just the negative 2, because you want the x by itself, this is multiplication. The way you get rid of that coefficient is by dividing, and whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. A negative over a negative is a positive, and 9 over 2 does not reduce. So, once you do everything you can on both sides, you're going to ultimately still end up with that two-step problem. I don't care how long it is. When you clean up both sides, you end up going back to the two-step problem. Okay, so let's look at another one here then. All right, let's see. Let's look at this one right here. You're going to notice something here in this problem that we actually did in the last section. Okay, so make sure it's all on here. I'll cut it off a little bit. All right, there we go. All right, now, so we got 2 times x minus 3 plus 4x equal. So, here's my equal sign. Look at this stuff on the left side. Well, what did we say a number in front of a parentheses means? Distribute. So I'm going to do that first. Then after I do that, I can combine some stuff. Same thing on this right side of the equal. I can distribute this 5 first, but then I can add some stuff together. So I want to do everything I can on the left side, everything I can on the right side. So let's distribute this 2. So this would be 2x minus 6. Bring down the plus 4x equals, and then distribute with this 5. 6x plus, and this is 5x minus, and then 1 times 5 is 5. All right, now let's add the x's together. I'm going to here's my equal sign. I'm still cleaning up both sides. Well, look at the left side. You got an x term here and an x term there. 2x plus 4x is 6x minus 6. You could write it negative 6 plus 6x if you wanted to. Equals. Now, on the right side, you can't combine these two terms, but you can combine these two. 6x plus 5x is 11x minus 5. Now, I have done everything I can on the left side, everything I can on the right side. Now we're back to the two-step problem. Variable terms here, number terms here. So get rid of the minus 6. To get rid of the subtracting 6, we will add 6 to both sides. When I do that, the left side would be 6x. The 6's here adds out to 0. The right side would be 11x. And then if you lose 5, but you win 6, you are up 1. All right, that got the numbers on the right side. Now I need to get the x terms back on the left. I need to get this x term back on the left. To get rid of it, the plus 11x, I have to minus 11x it. But I have to do that on the left side as well. When I do, 6x minus 11x is negative 5x equals, and on the right side, the 11x's adds out and leaves 1. Now, let me go on and throw this in too, and I'll say it in the next problem. If this right here ends up going to 0x, remember, if this goes to 0, the answer will either be no solution or all real numbers. If it's 0x equals some number, it's no solution. If it's 0x equals 0, it's all real numbers. All right, so to get rid of the number in front of the x, you divide by it. Divide by it. Now, the 1 over 5 is not 5. 5 over 1 is 5. But this doesn't reduce. But a positive over a negative is a negative. Now, you can leave the negative in the bottom, but whenever the answer is negative, we typically either put it in top or out in front of the fraction. So negative 1/5 is the solution to that problem. Okay. Now, let's look at another problem. And on this next problem, I'll just put it up and uncover it as we go through. So this one's kind of long. So let me check, make sure you're looking at all of it first. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see all of this one. Okay, let's look at this. I almost got it. Start copying that, and I'll slide this over just a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So we've got 5, this is a 5, plus 2 times 3x minus 1 equal x minus 3 times 2x plus 1 plus, and then this is 11x on the end. All right, here's my equal sign. What I want to do first is get rid of these grouping symbols. You get rid of your grouping symbols by using the distributive property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 2 times both of these. Now, if you're not careful, you'll be tempted right here to say 5 plus 2 is 7. Remember, orders of operations, multiplication comes before adding and subtracting. So we're going to have to distribute this 2 first. Same thing over here. To get rid of this grouping symbol, I'm going to have to distribute this 3 to both of these. But don't forget that this 3 is negative right here. All right, let me uncover it and then I'll explain it. You can pause it and write it if you need to before you hear my explanation. Okay, so bring down the 5 plus 2 times 3x is 6x, and then 2 times the negative 1 is negative 2. And bring down the equal. Bring down the x. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And then negative 3 times a positive 1 is negative 3. And then I just bring down the plus 11x. Let me make this a little bigger for you now. Okay. Now, I've gotten rid of the grouping symbols. But if you will notice on the left side, you've still got some like terms. On this left side over here, this term right here and this term right here are number terms. They're already on the left side. So I can add these together. But I'm going to put my x term first. So I'm going to bring the 6x down, and then 5 minus 2 would be plus 3. So I brought the 6x down. 5 minus 2 is plus 3. Now the right side. 1x minus 6x. If you win 1 but you lose 6, you are down 5. So that's negative 5x. But negative 5x plus 11x, if you're down 5 but you win 11x, you're up 6. So I add 1 minus 6 plus 11 to get 6x. That's a number term, so I just brought it down. Now, look at the problem. You're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Now, I'm going to get to where I quit showing that step, but you do it if you need to continue to show it. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides right here. Minus 3 and minus 3. But I'm also going to do this. Put minus 3 and put minus 3. You do that now if you need to do that. But then you got to get rid of this 6x. So I'm going to put minus 6x and minus 6x. And when I do that, if you do it in one step, this is what it looks like. All right, this is the first time I've done it in one step, so let me say it again. So you're going to minus 3 here, so it's gone. Then you're going to minus 3 over here. So this minus 3 is right there, and the minus 3 that you wrote is right there. But then you got to minus the 6x, so it's gone. But then you minus the 6x over here. That's why some teachers, I don't particularly care to teach it this way, but some teachers say, move this number across and make it negative. You know, when you take it over, switch the sign. And move this one back to this side and switch the sign. I'm not crazy about that, teaching it that way, but some teachers do teach it that way. But if you need to do it in 2 steps to get to this, you do it in 2 steps every single time, like we've been doing. All right, now look at what we've got. 0x equals negative 6. Okay, this throws up a red flag to me because If the number in front of x goes to 0, you can't divide both sides by 0. So, when this happens, the answer is either nothing works or everything works. If it's 0x equals something, it can never be true. 0 times nothing will ever give you negative 6. If this was 0x equals 0, I would write all real numbers. But since it's 0x equals something else, the answer is no solution. So the answer to this problem is no solution. Okay, let's see if I can get this one more example in here. Give me just a minute. 7 minus 3. Let's see if this will get it. Okay, let's see. Yes, I think that got it in there. I'll give you time to either pause it. Let me read it for you first. This is 7 right here. 7 minus 3 times 2 minus 5x equals 6 times x minus 1 minus x minus 8 minus 2 times 4 plus 3x. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start out and distribute this 3. When I do, remember this is negative 3 times this, negative 3 times this. 6 times this, 6 times that. Negative 1 times this, negative 1 times that. Negative 2 times this, negative 2 times this. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing everything I can on both sides. All right, when I do this, this is what the next line looks like. All right, so bring down the 7. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 5x is plus 15x. A negative times a negative is a positive. Equals 6 times x is 6x. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 8 is plus 8. And then negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And negative 2 times 3 is negative 6x. All right, so all I did was distributive properties on both sides. Now, on the left side of the equal, add the x terms together and number terms together. So right here, 15x, that's a variable term, number term, number term. So bring the 15x down first, and then 7 minus 6 would be plus 1. So bring the 15x down, 7 minus 6 is plus 1. You could write it 1 plus 15x, but I like putting the x term first. Now the right side. 6x minus 1x is 5x. And then 5x minus 6x is negative 1x. Now add the numbers together. Negative 8 plus 8 adds out to 0. And so you're left with just minus 6. Now you're back to that two-step problem. Okay, if you do it in 2 steps, here's what you do. Minus 1 here and minus 1 here. When you do, the 1s are gone. So you have a minus 1 behind this. But then you need to plus 1x on this side and plus 1x on the left side. When you do, this is what it'll look like if you do it in 1 step. So bring the negative 6 down and you minus 1 on both sides. Then bring the 15x and you plus 1x on both sides. Now let me say again, if you learned it, move this over and switch the sign, move this over and switch the sign. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. You're not really moving it over, though I know it looks like that. So now you've got 16x equals -7. And then divide by the number in front of the x, as we always have. That does not reduce to get -7 over 16. Now, this finishes all of the equations from 2.1a, 2.1b, and 2.1, except there may be a few of the problems in the 2.1b homework and the 2.1 homework that follows that, some equations that have fractions in them. Our next video, I will teach you how to solve equations that have fractions in the original problem. I'll show you how to deal with that, but that will be in the next video. But you should be able to do all of the other problems that do not have the fractions in them in all of your 2.1 sections of homework. So equations with fractions, still 2.1, in the next video.